When we think of ancient scripture, we picture something permanent. We imagine the laws of the cosmos chiseled into stone tablets, unyielding and fixed. In late antiquity, religious texts were highly plastic. These documents functioned as fluid networks of ideas, subject to constant rewriting, merging, and overwriting. At the center of this network in Second Temple Judaism were the Enochic and Noachic traditions, esoteric lore focusing on the patriarchs, the rebellious watchers, and the flood. These foundation myths occupied a strange dual status. Communities treated them with absolute reverence, yet handled them like open source code, freely modifying the narrative to suit their immediate needs. Late antique religious movements deliberately engineered these existing texts. By hijacking established textual authority, they could legitimize entirely new sectarian agendas. We see this operate in two distinct directions. First, an outward expansion. The prophet Mani co-opted the Jewish Book of Giants, absorbing it to construct the cosmology for his rival world religion, Manichaeism. Second, an inward collapse. The authors of the text known as 2 Enoch executed a targeted theological hit job, systematically dismantling the legacy of the patriarch Noah from within. These ancient texts are active weapons of theological warfare. The physical trail of this weaponized scripture begins in the Judean desert, among the caves of Qumran. In 1971, scholar J.T. Millick identified fragments of a distinct Jewish text hidden among the Dead Sea Scrolls, an Aramaic Book of Giants, detailing the apocalyptic offspring of the Watchers. Centuries later, the prophet Mani grew up in southern Mesopotamia within a Jewish Christian Elkosside sect. This specific environment gave him direct, unmediated access to this exact Enochic tradition. As the vector line animates, the text physically migrated. It moved from the sects of the Levant into the Mesopotamian basin, where Mani absorbed it, and then traveled thousands of miles eastward along the Silk Road. We know this because the later Manichaean translations of the text were unearthed in the early 20th century, deep in the Turfan basin. Mani actively reverse-engineered this mythology to convert a non-Jewish audience. In 1943, Iranist W.B. Henning analyzed these Turfan fragments. He proved that Mani utilized a specific Aramaic source text, Avorlage, to construct his own Middle Persian Book of Giants. Mani's method was a highly deliberate form of linguistic and cultural alchemy. He stripped the Jewish theological markers and mapped them onto regional mythologies. If we visualize this process as a translation matrix, we can see how this syncretism functions. The Aramaic word for heavenly watchers, yar, is replaced by the Middle Persian term kal, meaning demons. The biblical Geborim and Nephilim, the monstrous offspring of the Watchers, are aligned with the Hellenistic concept of the Titans to appeal to a Greek-speaking periphery. Mani then injected entirely foreign elements, inserting indigenous Iranian epic heroes like Sam and Naiman directly into the narrative alongside the Jewish patriarchs. He also preserved specific Jewish giants like Oya or Ogias, establishing an explicit link to the biblical king Og of Bashan, mentioned in Deuteronomy 3:11. Using this matrix, Mani weaponized an obscure Aramaic apocryphon. He stripped its localized sectarian identity and deployed it as the universal cosmological foundation for a global religion. Mani engineered texts by looking outward. Other groups engineered their scripture by looking inward, using the exact same technology for erasure. The Slavonic apocalypse, known as 2 Enoch, provides the perfect case study for this internal destruction. To understand the severity of the polemic in 2 Enoch, we have to establish the baseline. In traditional texts like 1 Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, the patriarchal lineage is clear. Noah is the ultimate survivor, the visionary who receives the warnings of the flood, and the sole originator of post-diluvian animal sacrifice. He serves as the essential priestly bridge. Through his son Shem, Noah carries the sacred authority of the antediluvian world directly to Abraham. The text of 2 Enoch completely rejects this baseline. Noah's status is actively eradicated. The author needed to legitimize a totally different sectarian lineage. To do that, they had to systematically dismantle the most revered hero of the flood myth from within his own textual tradition. We can track this character assassination trait by trait, observing how Noah's traditional profile is stripped down. First, Noah loses his role as the originator of sacrifice. 2 Enoch reassigns this critical priestly function to his grandfather, Methuselah, and to Ner, a previously unknown younger brother of Noah. The text adds intense halakhic precision to Methuselah's new role, stipulating specific rituals like tying the 4 legs of the sacrificial animal. This solidifies his new authority, bypassing Noah. Second, Noah loses his direct communication with the divine. He is reduced to a timid bystander. It is Methuselah and Ner who received the crucial night visions warning of the impending apocalypse, not Noah. Finally, the text targets Noah's legendary birth. In older traditions, Noah is born a glorious wonder child. 2 Enoch deletes this. The miraculous traits are transferred to Melchizedek. The text claims he is born from the corpse of Ner's wife, fully developed, already speaking, and bearing a physical badge of priesthood. This sets up the final devastating blow. The sacred priestly lineage bypasses Noah and his son Shem entirely. It moves from Ner directly to Melchizedek, who was rescued from the floodwaters by the archangel Gabriel. By stripping Noah of his narrative power, the authors of 2 Enoch successfully severed the traditional connection between Noah and Abraham. They hollowed out an old patriarch to validate a rival Melchizedekian priesthood. Whether we are looking at the Aramaic Book of Giants or the canonical Noachic lore, the underlying mechanism is identical. Both texts prove that in late antiquity, mythology was highly modular. The nodes of a story could be detached and rerouted. Mani manipulated these texts outward. He absorbed foreign myths to build a universal cosmology capable of competing on a global scale. The authors of 2 Enoch manipulated them inward. They executed a precise character assassination to destroy a theological rival and legitimize their own sectarian lineage. Pseudepigraphical literature is a sophisticated technology. Scripture was modular source code, a tool to build worlds and to destroy rivals.